This entitled mum wants a proper funeral for her brother. In other words, her relatives must pay for an expensive funeral, and she doesn't have to pay a thing. Will she get away with it, or will they make her pay? Happy birthday, today's your birthday, and on with the revamped show. Yesterday for lunch, me, my significant other, and some family went to a Greek restaurant nearby. It's semi-upscale, so not the place you'd necessarily go to in a tracksuit, but not evening wear either. We sit at our reserved table when a group of 7 wanders in without a reservation. All adult, one mother with a pram, and a kid of maybe 5. They get shown a table, instantly complain it's too small, etc. They're also a bit loud, but whatever. I'm sat facing their table, so I see this all as it unfolds. They order. EM complains there is too much lamb and seafood on the menu. Well, yeah. Their starters arrive, she decides to breastfeed her baby. Now I don't mind this, especially as she even used a cloth to cover the kid. No problems here. The older kid is walking around but not being a problem. Then, to my horror, with her free hand she starts eating. As in a full fork hovered over the baby. Trust you me, this woman was, not starving. Could have waited a minute. She was eating something hot, and I watched in fascinating horror as she nearly dropped food on the kid multiple times. And then, it happens. It falls right on the baby. The thin cloth didn't help obviously, and the kid starts screaming. I felt awful for it, to be honest. She jumps up, yanks the cloth off and tries to soothe the kid, walking towards the door. At this point, the whole restaurant is staring at her and her now mostly free-hanging tit. Not great, but okay. The older kid is messing with the decorations in the restaurant, touching glass and leaving fingerprints. Doesn't give a frick about his mother at all. The rest of her table didn't seem to either. Next to our table, we're white, is the only black family in the place, with a boy of maybe, I don't know, 14? He was on his way back from the restaurant when this went down and froze next to us, like everyone else. She looks around and for some reason singles me out, packs her tit in and baby's still crying, stomps over and tells me that I need to teach my son that he can't stare at women breastfeeding in public. I look at the kid. Kid looks at me. I'm 25 and look it, I'm clearly not at all related to the boy. Like, comically obviously not. I managed to stutter out that he's not my son and that everyone is staring because of how she's acting, when her other son manages to knock over a top-heavy vase filled with small decorative beads that spilled everywhere instantly. I thought, yay, she'll leave me alone, but no. She starts screaming again how my son traumatized hers, and he's acting out because he's so upset. The kid actually looked sorta upset that he knocked it and tried to scoop the beads back. A waiter had a broom handy and took care of it properly. Anyway, the EM just keeps ranting at me how mothers like me, I have no children, are the reason good mothers get a bad rep. I assume she meant herself there, but I don't know. My boy, in the meantime, just walks back to his parents and tries to hide behind his actual dad. Just in case there was any doubt, that's not my whiter-than-the-moon ginger significant other. I'm sitting in front of my plate just watching her scream and scream until she presumably got sick of it. I wish I could say I said something clever, but all I came up with was, wow. She went back to her table, sat down and yeah. The rest of the time there she glared. The table was loud. It was so bizarre. The black family apologized when they left. They were super sweet even if the boy was still mortified. Unfortunately, we'd only just gotten our own food, so we couldn't just leave. The waiters all had that universal look of, screw this table. In particular, whenever they came over to EM's group. The rest of the table in the meantime all acted like nothing happened. They didn't acknowledge the freakout, the screaming baby, or anything else as far as I could tell. They were, however, obnoxious as. I overheard them asking for stuff off their bill when we left, and walked past them and OMG, such a nuisance. I was still trying to process when we were all back home. I get why mothers have to breastfeed in public. That's totally normal, that's natural, that's fine. And if you're a mother who does that, you shouldn't feel ashamed to do so. However, if you consume hot food which then spills and burns your child, leaving them to scream, which of course is going to have everyone stare at you, you don't have the right to go around and demand that everyone stops staring at you. And why am I not surprised that they're the sort of family that demanded some sort of discount when really they were the ones who caused the disturbance for everybody else? At the start of November, my family had just passed away in his sleep due to liver and kidney failure. We had his funeral 2 days later. A day before the funeral, I was on the phone with Mum talking about what I needed to do. Get my siblings ready, drive them there, prepare a speech, etc. And that's when she decided to let out some steam, as she had recently got in contact with my entitled aunt, my dad's sister. EA was a special kind of entitled. She didn't like confrontation. She would try to get her way through playing the victim, playing dumb, or just outright theft. EA had contacted my mum to get information on the funeral plans and started to passively complain how it was too soon. I wanted to invite family from up north to come, and we need to give him a proper traditional burial. You mean the family members who have not once reached out to see how Dad was doing, or if my family needed some help? Did she offer to pay for the funeral she wanted? Nope, of course not. This is the same woman who left my parents with her own mother's $7,000 funeral bill from 4 years ago. My mum is still trying to pay it off. One thing to understand is that my father was suffering from his health conditions for years, to the point where he couldn't work, and before his death spent 2 months in and out of comas. It's put so much emotional and financial strain on my mum that she was practically a single mum even before he passed. My mum didn't have enough to give him a proper funeral, such as a nice coffin, flowers, or a wake at the funeral home. My mum's Muslim community helped her so much in providing all the basics, even held a prayer at the local mosque. Ironic since Dad was an atheist like me. And her friend offered her house as a place to have a quick reception for tea and coffee. Mum was happy with a short and sweet funeral as she wanted to move on and focus on my younger siblings. A few other things entitled aunt has done. We loaned her our nice car while we were living overseas. Came back to be told she had sold it and bought us a crappy lemon. Constantly complained about her kids doing drugs, getting pregnant, or can't hold down a job, yet does nothing about it and expects them to listen to her because I'm their mother. Borrowed money from Dad. Kept my mum's debit card when she found it in Dad's hospital room after Mum accidentally left it there and didn't tell her. Mum got it back. Posted multiple memorial tributes to my dad on her own page and my community page. She doesn't even live in my community. In a shameless act to fish for sympathy. I just wanted to get this off my chest. Her adult children aren't any better, but not as bad. I now just want to move on and not have to deal with her. This isn't about any specific interaction with an EP, but about a general experience with many. My dad had me and my 2 younger brothers volunteer at the Salvation Army for Christmas when I was in 6th grade. It was in one of the biggest and most crime-filled, poorest cities in my state. He got us there because he was friends with the person running it. I thought it was extremely fun and exciting. My dad's friend, the woman who ran it, let's say Mrs. C, had a giant, like 5-inch binder, each page with the profile of a kid, and gave their age and interests. She would turn a page, me and my brothers would see the profile, then we would all go into one of the rooms filled wall to wall with thousands of toys, then fill up a large brown paper bag with them. I'm not sure what kids ask for nowadays, but this was like 2007. And a lot of kids genuinely wanted specific board games and dolls and baby things, like the dolls that are like newborn babies you have to take care of, cute girly things, and boys wanted action figures, and just games or toys with specific themes. So we generally got to give kids pretty much exactly what they wanted. There was a secret closet there that had a couple of bikes and some iPods, and iTunes gift cards, Nintendo DS related things, etc. The bikes were meant for specific kids that had prior agreements with Mrs. C, and the technology things were there for older kids. Mrs. C, who had run the business for many years, said she only gave those things to children who she was very familiar with and who had been coming here for years. She told me when I first started here, I gave an iPod to a mother for her 14-year-old daughter. After I gave it to her, I watched her walk across the street and sell it to someone random for cash to buy drugs. I never made that mistake again. Then came the day that all the parents would arrive and pick up their bags. My dad let us all skip school so we could be there helping. The parents all lined up at the entrance in front of Mrs. C and my dad. They gave their name, Mrs. C flipped to their page in the binder, yelled out a number, and me and my brothers ran and got the bag with the corresponding number on it. Kids who were receiving bikes and iPods or DSs had to go through a side entrance so that no other parents would see that they are getting these things. In previous years, parents would get into actual physical fights with other parents when they believed that they were getting better items than their kid. Immediately, my crazed excitement/joy over the situation was killed. Parents wordlessly snatched their kids' bags out of my hand, never thanked me. I was a cute little girl saying Merry Christmas to everyone I handed a bag to, and only a few, out of over 100 parents, said anything back. People came in trying to get toys for their kids, even though they had never signed up. There is an October deadline to sign up for this program, and the application process is serious and multi-tiered, and I'm pretty sure it involved background checks.
There shouldn't be deadlines. My kids deserve a Christmas. How can you be so selfish? Just pull one toy out of the bag over there, it looks really full.
Parents tried to intimidate me into pulling toys from other bags, basically with, I'm an adult and you're a child, so do as I say, and said things like, do you think that person deserves a better Christmas than my daughter? Just because they signed up? I heard one mom on the phone speaking in Spanish after she received a bag. I knew basic Spanish, and when I overheard her calling my dad and Mrs. C selfish and greedy, I felt sick to my stomach, and like I wanted to cry. A lot of parents opened their bags in front of everyone right as they received them. These parents tried to argue about what they received.
My kid doesn't want this doll, they want a video game. They don't want X, they want Y.
When I knew that just about every kid received either exactly what they asked for or something in the realm of what they asked for. I remember keeping a happy expression on the entire time and then crying as soon as we left. My Christmas spirit was destroyed that year. I feel like Christmas brings out the best and the worst in people. Yes, it's a time where a lot of people are giving and mindful of others, but it's also a time where all the entitled people come out to play. Christmas is supposed to be about celebrating the birth of Jesus, God's gift to humanity. Can you imagine the shepherds and wise men visiting Jesus and being like, oh, it's just a baby? I thought we were getting like Nintendo Switches or something. The story. It's the day after my birthday. I was stoked to exist due to the wonderful birthday I had. Unfortunately, it was a Monday, and I'd come to commute to my university for class. No problem since I was in such a good mood. I drive as normal, singing along to the music I was playing in my car. I took my exit as normal as well. However, when I got to the end of the exit where the stoplight is, a car ended up trying to switch lanes without signaling and ended up hitting me. You see, the exit has 3 lanes towards the end. One to go left, one to go straight, and one to go right. I was in the middle lane trying to go straight, and the car that hit me was in the left lane. I was terrified because this was my first accident. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of a wimp, and so I was also crying because I was that freaking scared. We pull out of the exit and go into a nearby parking lot to call the police, and now the bullcrap begins. Entitled Dad steps out of the driver's side of his car and comes over to my passenger side window, tapping it.
Why did you hit my car? Who are you to drive so reckless?
Entitled Son, who is standing behind Entitled Dad.
Yo, what the frick? Do you know how much this car was?
It was a Lexus, so I assume a lot. At that point, I just lock my doors and call my dad. My dad then reassures me that everything will be okay and to just calm down and call the cops. I do just that, but ED continues to be a prick while his son is also calling the cops. ED is just standing outside my passenger side window holding a checkbook. He keeps telling me,
"You're young. This will go on your permanent record. You can even afford the increase in insurance. Let us give you money."
When the son was done with the 911 call, he also joined his father and started being a freaking prick, yelling,
"Yo, just take the money and freaking leave. We have places to be."
I'm no genius, but I knew that if I took the money and left, they would have told the cops, who were on the way, that it was a hit and run. Thus the blame would all be on me. I just put on my headphones and waited for the cops. All the while, the ED and ES were goading me to take their money and just leave. City police eventually came to the lot. When I saw the cop pull up, I put away my headphones and stepped out of my car. The cop, who is BC, walked right past me and went towards the ED and asked him what had happened. ED then proceeded to tell the BC that I hit him while merging into the center lane. When the cop came over to me, he told me that it's out of his hands since it was on a state highway lines, so state police was on the way. He then had the gall to tell me, "Drive responsibly next time," when it was not my fault and without asking for my side of the story. I get back in my car and lock the door once again as I waited for state police. Again, entitled dad and entitled son were at my window telling me to take their money and save my permanent record. State police eventually arrived and they did their jobs. They asked me to tell my side, and they asked ED and ES to tell their sides. ED and ES said the same thing they told the city police, that I hit them while merging lanes. I said the opposite. The state police didn't take ED and ES's bullcrap. The damage on our cars said otherwise. He just listened to the two who were giving smug glances back at me every once in a while. Eventually the police let us go and the waiting game starts for the police report and insurance claims. Fast forward 2.5 weeks and the police report says exactly what the truth is. That ED and ES were at fault for the accident, and that they actually told the cops that they offered me money to leave, but I didn't take it. They had to pay over $2,000 for my car repair, as well as the money for my rental car. My insurance didn't even go up. In fact, it dropped due to losing the status of new driver. Now, if somebody's been in an accident and they say, "Oh, you're the one at fault, you hit me," and yet they're the one offering you money, how is that not the same as admitting that you're at fault? If someone's done damage to you, they're the one that's responsible to compensate you. He was so obviously projecting, like, it'll go on your permanent record, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, so you're saying that you don't want your insurance to go up because you know you're at fault. Submit your story to be read on the channel at voiceyherestories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.